Welcome to Career Conversations by Future Forward. I'm your host, Owen Brell.
And I'm Micaela Tramontano.
And today we're here with
Todd Masters.
Okay. So tell us a little about what you do.
So right now, currently, I am in the process of launching and walking through the process of starting a supplement company.
Okay. So what's been the biggest struggle getting this started up?
I would probably say understanding the directions that you need to go stacked on top of each other. So a lot of the times, the first thing is you come up with a name, right? You have a name for your product or something like that, but that's really just not even the beginning of it. So what I found out in this from previous business I had been in was I had to have the name, but then you have to procure the website. You have to make sure that site is available. So when you do that, then the next thing is to start stepping into creation of your business entities. Which business entity would you like to be? Sole proprietorship, S Corp, C Corp, all of those LLCs, single person LLC. It just the whole world opens up. So for me, I was a little bit nervous about starting a business. I didn't know a lot about the industry itself, but I knew enough about business that I wasn't going to be scared away by what I found. So I knew there was going to be hard times coming with this and things I didn't know and things I had to figure out and money you had to spend and things like that. So I would say figuring out the direction in the correct sequence in which they need to happen has probably been the biggest unfolding mystery that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a really, really amazing process because in that process, as you're figuring out your steps, you start to kind of figure out what you are. You have an idea, you have a mission statement, you have the things in your mind that you want to see accomplished, but as you unfold one thing, something may change, what I can do and what I can't do. So I've ran into several instances of things that I would have liked to have seen done, but that someone had years ago beat me to the punch. There's not a lot of original ideas out there. There's a lot of rebaked ideas. It's not a new idea to start a supplement company, but it may be a new idea to put the spin on it and the direction that we're going with this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been some of the hardest things that I've found.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, on those days that are like a little rougher or you don't have your ideas articulated, how do you keep your business going? Or like what is your inspiration behind doing what you do?
So I think as long as everything's paid for the month, your business goes, right? The success in your business is kind of what you find on the hard days. For me, it's about finding where to give. For this business specifically, it's very much sharpening its direction towards being able to help. You guys might not know it, but you're walking around with kids that can't afford cleats. And you're walking around and you may be going to school with kids that might not have had dinner last night. I've been around long enough and I've seen a lot of things happen, and it's things that we're not aware of. I know that being involved in the sport of wrestling as an inspiration and everything else, I've been in a lot of wrestling rooms and practice rooms that had an open door policy. So I've been in private school wrestling facilities that invite inner city schools to come practice. And that was a big inspiration for me, was is the need that you have this, but there's kids out there, and there's talented kids. There's Olympians out there that might not can even afford. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing with the Anabolic Army that I really desperately want to be able to do is I want to be able to provide a path for the kids that can. Mm-hmm. I had an incident just the other day where I was talking to one of the kids from the middle school team, and I said, well, we hadn't seen you at practice. What middle school's over, but the club is, we're just getting going. And he said, it's too expensive. He said, it's very expensive, to participate because they're in other sports. They do some other things. He has siblings, and I understand that, having 4 sons of my own, how expensive everything is. So immediately, as a business owner, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to step in, and you have a kid that enjoyed his first season with no success. I think he was like 1 in 15. But he loved what he was doing, and he loved the connection that he had with his team and all those other things. So the Anabolic Army is going to step in and make sure that he has that, mm-hmm. and that if being at those practices every week is something that we can clear that path, then I will clear that path for him, and he can be there practicing. And then who knows, by the time he steps foot in here as a freshman, maybe you got a kid that can come in and shake some things up. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's so amazing to hear, especially because one of Future Forward's core values is accessibility. And we realize there's a lot of kids out there that have diminished opportunities. They want everyone to have an equal opportunity to succeed. And so I know you were talking about how you help people with their roadblocks. So what does Anabolic Army do specifically that helps students achieve their wrestling goals?
So this was inspired by the kids I've been around in the years that I've been around this. And I've been very fortunate enough that most of the kids that provided that inspiration were all kind of centrally located and ended up here. We've been around from before Summit was even a thing, or Coach Miller had stepped onto the scene. So what Anabolic Army does is we have created supplements that are more geared towards the wrestling situation. And the physical situation in wrestling is it's one of the harder, if not the hardest sport out there. The relentless practices and the way that you practice, and the fact that you've got another human being of equal weight trying to, it's an incredible thing. So what we've tried to do is we're in the process of creating an environment that allows wrestlers and or sports kids that are on the move, travel teams. I know cheer's a big one. Travel baseball is huge, soccer, all those things. That's a little bit more portable. It's a little bit more of, I can't carry my weights with me. I can't carry all this. I've got a single bag. My kids were on a bus, and they had one bag and then one bag they could carry on. So we have a set of resistance bands that an athlete can take with them, and we have little portable things for your supplements to be able to put a scoop in here and put it in your bag, and that way you've got it with you. Those kind of things. We have a pre-workout, we have essential amino acids, and we have our resistance bands. Those are our 3 original products. I'm self-funded, and I'm building it piece by piece. I didn't have just a bank full of money to go start this with. So this has been a lot of overtime and determination. So.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting to me because my sister is actually on a travel hockey team. Yeah, and like I know and I see firsthand like the strain it puts on my family and like the time commitment it is. So it's like very heroic that you're doing something like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was through my own experiences. We had one year when my oldest son was, I want to say, between 8th and 9th grade, because that's the big step up, is middle school to high school. The competition changes. Everybody's kind of in that same skill level now. So your off season between 8th and 9th grade is pretty crucial. And we had worked, we worked really, really hard to get that first thing done. And I think at the end of off season, I had driven almost 13,000 miles.
Wow.
And we were in Ohio one week, we're in Florida another week, we're in Georgia the next week, and it was just constant, nonstop. And freshman season rolled around, and we were a little bit more prepared than, maybe we would have been. But yes, it is traveling, sports, and all those things. It is a very taxing on everybody, right? Even if you have to leave your dogs at home or have them boarded, right?
Yeah.
It can be hard on everybody. So that's the environment that we're trying to create, is something that takes a little bit off the plate, where I can grab a resistance band, I can put my supplement in my little bitty carry thing, and I can go with me, and I'm good to go. So,
One thing I want to ask about, you said that interested me, was you talked about being self-funded, and how do you go about like getting money raised for this or saving money to put back into the business, and how do you go about starting that? Because I know a lot of people, like my brother, he wants to start a business, but he's like, I don't have the money to start it, but he has a job. So how do you go about like balancing that?
I think for me, it's been very important to, in realizing how to chronologically stack what you need to do next. So buying your domain name, that could be 19 cents, or anabolicarmy.com was for sale for $4,000.
Wow.
But the anabolicarmy.com was not. It was like $1.85.
Yeah.
So you just, I got that. I had that. I had $1.85. So those are kind of the steps. Like we're working on the creatine right now, and it's going to be a little bit different than what's out there on the market. It's a standard creatine monohydrate, but there are some issues with creatine in dissolvability and things like that make it a little unpleasant. So we've been able to achieve a supplement that fully dissolves. And I've also, which has been my main goal, is to make the absolute cleanest supplement for a young athlete that I can possibly make. And that comes at a great expense. I could have unflavored creatine monohydrate for, let's say, $10, but because I feel like athletes are looking for a little bit more, and there are some problems with this increases my cost. So I was able to plan ahead on what X amount of units would cost. So I could go to a bank and borrow money, but I don't like owing anybody money. I want to go through this world as debt-free as I possibly can, because I believe that also is one of the easier ways to raise money. Not going to McDonald's today. It's as simple as that, or it's as hard as going to the bank or the SBA and going through all the paperwork and filling those things out. But for me, it's just being able to identify what I've got coming and being able to put it together by the time it's here. And I've been pretty fortunate to not miss that a couple of times. So
You've talked about like developing a new product. What steps go into product development for you, and what kind of education did you need to be able to do that?
Okay. So my educational background started working in an operating room. I've been working in surgery or surgical related for over 20 years. In that field, I have met incredible people. One of those incredible people that I have met is a pharmacist, and he's been a pharmacist for going on 30 years. So we got to talking one day, and I realized he could help me, and he could give me the real information about supplements, because I could take him one and he would look at it and be like, well, this doesn't do you any good with only this amount, and this doesn't do you any good, for this, and this might not mix well, and this could agitate someone's asthma, right? So it's being able to seek out people that can help you in the business that you're in. I was fortunate enough to have somebody. I was doing supplements. They were in that world in a sense, and had just all the head knowledge to be able to, or point me in a direction. Mm-hmm. So that was how I have done this education-wise. When my previous business, I owned a restaurant for 11 years, and here in town. And when that was done, it took me a little bit of time. There needed to be some recoup time because that was 11 hard years. And when I came out of it, personal training, went and became a personal trainer, and that added to an already pretty good surgical knowledge. And then I went and got my Olympic certification for weightlifting, Olympic lifting. And so I started training kids and started kind of putting some of that into action. And then that was where I came across the personalities that I was like, God, these guys they're giving everything, right? There are some folks that don't. Mm-hmm. There are some folks that, make it on the team that don't. I'm sorry, I hate to say it that way. But there are the ones, and we all know the ones that are the driven. And I ended up being fortunate enough to coach about 6 of those guys over 4 years. And they taught me more than I taught them, I felt like some days, because they would have just gotten done with a 2.5-hour practice and come to me for an 1.5-hour workout. That's a commitment level. It's like getting off work and then going to work. Mm-hmm. So I think that education was certification based, but it also was the experience of learning from the people I was working with. Mm-hmm. Also, I know in this industry there's guys with PhDs. There's guys that are probably better on paper to be able to do this. But at the end of the day, they're all made in a manufacturing facility based off of a formula that you give, mm-hmm. or that you have worked out. So I don't know how necessary it is, but it probably helps down to the micro of some things. But for me, it was being able to have access to people that had the knowledge also, and then I could learn from them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is actually such an interesting point, like that you bring up networking, because like Future Forward obviously is like very based in networking. Like we match students to like a career that they want to go into. And so I think it's like so amazing that you learn from students. And the point of this podcast is for students to figure out like what do they want to do post high school. And I mean, I'm there right now. I'm a senior and I just got like accepted into 4 colleges or whatever. And so like it comes up, do I really need that piece of paper to be successful? And so it's interesting like to hear your thoughts about which doors are open up to you or which doors you had to like open yourself.
Absolutely. I was not fortunate enough to be able to attend college. I left home when I was 15. And my senior counselor told me, you don't have the family dynamics to be able to go to college right now. You need to get a job. And that's what I did. And so would I like to have done it a different way? Yeah, I think if I had a biology degree or something like that, it maybe would have saved a few steps. But there's a way around. There's always a way around. There is very to little no reasons to quit. Unless you just come up against something, that unforeseeable that you can't control, but there's no reason to quit. And I think that the more that you push, and it's what you have to do. Nobody did this for y'all. Y'all had to come in and do this, right? I mean, it was just, it's on you. and you got to get up and do the work every day, and there'll be some benefits from it. Doesn't mean that you're going to be driving a Porsche or anything like that tomorrow, but it does mean that you're getting up and you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing to move yourself forward. And I think moving forward, regardless of circumstance, is paramount in having a successful life.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's like so inspiring to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you could talk to like a high school that wanted to start a business, but they're like kind of on the fence, do they want to start a business or do they want to go to school or just stay at the job they have right now? What would you tell them? Or like, if you could go back and talk to your past self, would you recommend they get experience in something first or go straight into it?
First thing I would do, if there was something coming out of high school, because mine was food. It was since I was a kid. I know what I did for myself to learn food was I put myself in those situations. I went and worked side jobs at restaurants. I happened to end up at an older restaurant with 3 executive chefs that were amazing. Just crazy skills and everything else. And that was probably where my biggest inspiration for that came, because that really fulfilled my love for food. But being able to find the people that have the information you want. And they could be at a college building, but they could also be, in an office. They could be your cashier at Kroger. There's a cashier at Kroger, and her husband was a mega CEO, for decades, and you would never know it. You would absolutely never know it. But I think when you find your direction, and again, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going for, you've got to start looking for people that have the information around it, especially being in high school. Yes, go to school, absolutely. Get that degree to back that up. But without any sort of hands-on experience, it's going to be hard to break into that field, right? Because you and 100 other people are going to show up with a resume and everything else. But if I look on that resume and I see that, they got 7 years of, blah, 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 helping mom and dad with the family business or whatever it is, then you've got, you may have something there. But the first thing I do is I look for someone that has more knowledge than me, and I seek them out, and I ask if they mind, if I learn from them. And a lot of times people are happy. There's a lot of people out there that are just so willing to help, but they don't get asked. So you just got to get over the fear, and you got to go find that person that has what you need and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And a lot of times they'll just give it right to you.
Owen and I have actually encountered that. When we first started Future Forwards, we went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and we started telling people about our idea, and they were like, oh, this is such a wonderful idea, we'd love to help. And no one has just ever thought to ask them before. So it's very interesting. I'm wondering, how can we motivate students to find these opportunities? How can we motivate them to be a better version of themselves?
So my answers may be a little bit different, being, kind of a little bit from a different setting and everything else, is get your butt up.
Yeah, I agree.
Get up. Go find it. Get off the games. Put the phones down. You've got to want it. And you've got to want it to the point to where you'll put down anything that's in that way. I know that when we started doing this, it was very tempting just to, wait a minute, I know how to open an Amazon store now. I can build e-commerce stores now. Why don't I just build some generic thing and try and sell flip-flops or, spoons or, something like that. And in that conversation with myself, it wasn't about money. you know. There's a place for that. I'm totally fine with that. But this was more about a mission and a purpose and giving back. You need money to do that. I need to have sales to do that. But at the end of the day, nobody did this. I had to find out, you know. I didn't know if metallic could be printed on those labels, but I had to go find out. So get up and get going. There's usually you are the biggest reason you don't get up and get moving. So when you can deal with that person in the mirror and make them get up and move, you'll see some things starting happening, I promise. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that all the time. So I'm on our school's cross country team, and you know, it's 100% like against yourself. You know, of course you're running against the other people, but you know, you're running to beat like your own personal best time. So I definitely get that. Like, it is really only you that can get it done. And I like how you mentioned like having, you know, the idea of what you want. Speaking of like your vision, where do you see Anabolic Army going in the future, and what does that look like? I know you mentioned earlier on like developing a new creatine. So what does like the future look like for you over the next 5 or 10 years?
I don't know. You know, I don't know. That's kind of the beauty of the journey, you know, is I'm not 100% sure. I know what I would like to see is ultimately what I would like to see is I would like to see Anabolic Army be able to pay for a travel team and give them their gear and give them everything that they need and get them signed up. And I don't know, you know, 100%. I hadn't really thought much what it would look like if it was successful. I know if it was successful, there'll be a lot of kids gravitating to sports that would not be there if it was not for the Anabolic Army. Mm-hmm. That's probably more of the vision that I would see is there's a little guy or girl that's going to look back and be like, I remember my first pair of shoes, or I remember my first gym bag, or, you know, it was something that was given to me to give me that little push. Mm-hmm. So I hope that no matter what it is, that we've done that. And we've stayed true to the heart of it all. Because if something gets away from the heart, for me personally, yeah, it doesn't hold a lot of, you know, anymore. But I would like to be able to run into an adult one day that said, I got here because the Anabolic Army provided a path. Mm-hmm. Cool. That was one of the best things I had mentioned earlier, that I owned a restaurant. And I opened that in 2010. I'm still connected, and I still talk to some of the kids that first worked for me that are in their 30s, they're married and have kids now and have great, successful lives. I was a lot of kids' first jobs. Spring Hill, Indy, Summit, we had them all, you know, we had them all. And to see, even if it's just a random something on Facebook or something like that, and you're like, I know that kid. They're all grown up. They're doing really good now, you know. Hopefully that, you know, my craziness and that part of my life and how crazy all that was, maybe they learned something from just learning what not to do for me. So, but I think that's one of the prime, most important things is to be able to look back years later and be like, we touched that life. Mm-hmm. That life is better, not because of me, but because we were able to help. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's like a great mission and success story because, you know, I was thinking about it. Flexibility is really what gets you places. Like, you have to be flexible in order to succeed. And I mean, you seem like a small picture guy. Like, I know there's all these people that are like there's blah, blah, blah wrong with the world. Like, how do I fix that on a big scale? But you're really like a catalyst of how to inspire change on a small scale and then make it become like a big scale in someone else's life. And that's really amazing to hear. Like, thank you so much for being such an important person in our community.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and it's something that I will look back on one day and be very glad that the things that we've been able to do have helped. Have helped some people. Getting kiddos in a good place is that's it. And I guess looking back all the way, that's maybe been the mission the whole time. Because when I closed the restaurant, the day after, there was nothing left, right? All the equipment was gone, barbecue was gone, people were gone, I was gone. But what wasn't gone was the people that I had and what they learned and what they took with them. Because you get a lot of questions. I was the old guy in the room. And it was everything from how do I balance my checkbook to I have to take out new car insurance. How do I do that? It was everything else. So a lot of times I was standing there, making sandwiches and stuff and trying to tell somebody, how to figure out their car insurance or something like that. So I hope it does. I hope it has. I really do. Kobe DeSalle, who is now our coach at Spring Station for the middle school wrestling team, he worked for me. My oldest son, whose name is up on that board, he worked for me. And so Zach Thomas, who went to school here, he worked for me. I had a lot of Summit kids come through and work for me. And it was just, I don't know, it's just kind of been a part of the landscape now. And I just enjoy it, so I'm all spartied out. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. It's amazing hearing about like your want to be able to help younger people, achieve their dreams. So before we close out this episode, is there anything you'd like to tell like a young, like prospective entrepreneur?
Yes. You are entering into what will be the hardest, most rewarding thing outside of your family that you could probably have going on. Businesses don't stop because you need to go to sleep. And it's always something, right? Your card reader doesn't work. It could be like we did an event Saturday, and I got all the way here and didn't even have my table set up on, so I had to stop and go back and get it. But it's going to be hard. You are going to want to quit. You are going to want to stop. Something even better may seem like it's coming along. Walk it all the way out. Walk it all the way out. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. We're incredibly resourceful when options are being taken away. We're really, really good when forced to create answers when a lot of our options have been taken away. And that resourcefulness, that critical thinking, those are things that you're going to have. And if you know somebody that wants to give you a lot of money, that would probably help too. Help you get a much faster jump on the situation. But I would say wake up, know that you are going to be the answer, but you've also got to be good at, this was something that someone had imparted to me was, and I'll never forget this, you have to be your own private investigator. So when I woke up, I did not know what compliance issues I'd have with labeling, right? That's a big deal. FDA restricts this. Amazon won't let you claim this. and all those things. So you have to then become a private investigator, and you have to be able to ask yourself the specific question, and then once you ask the question, you have to be able to go find the answer. But being able to identify the question is probably more important than coming up with the solution, because solutions could be all over the map. You could have 10 different solutions for one problem, but I've got to be able to ask myself the question, what is it going to take to solve this problem? So, if it's a compliance issue on labels, find you a compliance lawyer and see if you can sit down with them, that kind of thing, more specific to that situation. But be able to ask yourself all the necessary questions to get you to the next step that you're looking for. Because things won't unlock until you get that answer. This is something that I'm having to unlock and figure out what's the right formula for it and where's the right places for it. So I have to ask myself those questions: is who is my clientele? Who am I going to try and get this product to? So asking yourself questions will one day be more important than the answers that you come up with, because the answers could be varied, or the answers could have a no at the end, and then you got to go back and regroup. But I got to the point. So ask yourself questions. Be your own best private investigator.
Got it.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Okay, well, thank you guys for having me. It's been a minute, kind of trying. Life's busy and
For sure.
but,
Yeah.
This is a blessing to be able to be here, and I appreciate you guys and your time so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. And if anyone's interested, can you repeat your Instagram handle and your website?
Yes, so our website is theanabolicarmy.com, and our handles are at Anabolic Army or at the Anabolic Army, depending on which social. So it's at the Anabolic Army is Instagram, and theanabolicarmy.com is the website.
Got it.
That's it.
Thank you for watching this episode of Career Conversations. If you're interested in watching other episodes, check out our YouTube channel and our Spotify. If you'd like to see a guest, email futureforwards1@gmail.com and send them over to us. Thank you for watching.